when I wrote my first book, I thought this is a masterpiece. It is great beyond belief. People are going to be knocking down my door to try to publish this thing. And that turned out not to be true. And in fact, it wasn't until really I got a piece of solid, honest feedback from one of my writing group friends when she told me, she goes, this is.
Hey everyone, this is Kim O'Neill from the Every Day is a New Day podcast and live show, and you're listening to the Going North podcast with the hilarious Dom Brightman. Be sure to subscribe to his show so you don't miss any episodes, and remember, every day is always a new day.
And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for authors known as GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, it's the Going North podcast, and we got another super special, awesome human for you today, my friends, courtesy of my good buddy, Mr. Eminem himself, Mr. Mickey Mickelson, who's also out in Texas now. I guess he's no longer from the great country of Canada. We have another convert, y'all. We snagged another one, the great US of A. That's right indeed, because they know where the freedom is. But yeah, but today's guest in particular, my goodness, today's guest is a CEO, y'all. That's right, a CEO, as well as a polymath, serial entrepreneur, gamer, as well as an author of his very first science fiction novel, baby. So let's give it up for the one and only, the PD himself. And no, we're not talking about the police department, but we're talking about the powerful and diligent Pat Daly. How you doing today, Pat?
I am doing great. How are you doing, Dom?
I'm doing great, too. I got to thank Tony for that one as well.
Yeah, man, that was one of my favorite things to eat when I was a kid. Munching on them Frosted Flakes.
Heck yeah. It's like, yay, Frosted Flakes. It's like, yay, it's like good dandruff. Stop.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But it ain't about good dandruff. It's about my man, Pat, who is now in the business of immortality, man. So as you know, with all introductions, they're not allowed to be 73 days long, and I probably only caught maybe half a day of it. So am I filling in any cavities I may have missed about you?
No, I think you got it.
Oh, okay. All right. Surprise, 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 surprise. So my goodness, man. So did you see yourself ever becoming an author? Did you just fly a plane in your Air Force days and be like, you know what? Before I shoot this person down, I need to write this idea down for this novel I want to write.
I have been playing around with writing since I was a kid. And I mean, it was mostly junk. No, it was all junk. But I've always loved to read, and I always thought it would be cool to be on the other end of the book, be on the backside of the book. So when things started to slow down professionally, I got bit by the bug, and I had this idea for a book, and I started writing it, and it just kind of took off with me, and now I'm working on number 3, actually.
Oh wow, nice. Sweet. So I'm guessing number 2 is I'm guessing that's through a traditional publisher then.
Number 2 is actually going to be independently done.
Woohoo! Sweet.
Yeah,
So
I'm a little worried about it, a little nervous, but it's I think it's kind of the way publishing is going. I think more and more people are publishing by themselves, and that's good and bad. I mean, it's bad because that means we won't have as much quality control on what hits the market, but it's good because in the average big publisher, the author will get about $1 a book, and so they're charging $15 and the author gets one of them. And then everybody else takes a cut of it, and certainly they provide a big service. But I think for authors that are willing to put a little bit more skin in the game in terms of their own personal finances, they end up reaping bigger rewards on the backside. Or at least that's what I'm hoping.
Hey, you're right about that, man, and it's so true. That is really the way to go because especially if you're one of those fast-paced writers, I've like had quite a few writers who like they're so faster than publisher because traditional publishing it takes probably about a year probably of a whole process for a book to launch as opposed to somebody who may have a editor buddy and it's like hey they write so dang fast and they get a book done a month and it's like well I guess I'll just keep putting out this content here. I don't want to be a snail. I'm a freaking hedgehog here.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. It's and it absolutely is. It's, I think, for most traditional publishers, from the time you submit a manuscript to them, even if it's one they've been expecting, it's usually a year to a year and a half before that book hits the streets, and that's just there's no real need for that. I mean, yeah, some of it should be pre-launch hype, and that's all good, but I mean, there's a lot of hungry editors out there, a lot of hungry artists to do the cover art, and they're willing to turn things pretty quickly. So um, I think we can see a little more speed in the business.
Oh yeah, definitely agree with that because like oh my gosh, I want my book and I want it now. I want it now, darn it.
Yeah, my boy, it's ready to be out. It's ready to be out in the world. Let me launch it.
It's like, no, we must let it sit for 9 months. See it as a baby. That's right. That's right, indeed.
Yeah,
That's right. We want it to have a big old head, y'all. Like 9 months.
maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's like a baby. It's got to get through that publishing birth canal.
Publishing birth canal. There we go. The new PBC, baby. Oh man. But hey, that's awesome though. So my goodness, now that you're on the other side of the book, what was probably the biggest challenge of really putting the book together? Because I'm pretty sure there are some setbacks along the way.
Oh yeah, always a ton of setbacks, and I think really the biggest challenge is getting honest feedback, because when I wrote my first book, I thought this is a masterpiece. It is great beyond belief. People are going to be knocking down my door to try to publish this thing. And that turned out not to be true. And in fact, it wasn't until really I got a piece of solid, honest feedback from one of my writing group friends when she told me, she goes, this is, I mean, the sentences are all put together nicely, but the book is boring. And I go, what? My writing boring? Well, you got to be kidding me. And that caused me to take kind of a step back and look at it and realize, yeah, it is kind of boring. So 8 drafts later, it ended up being published, but it's so critical to find people that will tell you the truth, because you might have an ugly baby and you don't want to launch that thing until it's ready. Give it enough time to be fully formed and as pretty as you can make it in a reasonable amount of time before you send it out into the world.
Oh yeah, solid advice right there. That's right indeed. Fine folks, I'll tell you the truth and be ready to take it when they give it to you.
Yeah, and that's a hard part too, man, because you gotta have a little bit of a thick skin and be ready to accept that maybe you got an ugly baby on your hands or a boring book.
Yeah, that part's true, especially nowadays where it's like, oh God, do I say something? What do I say? They might get
Yeah,
scared and complain to Twitter.
yeah, it's like we don't want to offend anybody, so that stopped us from saying the truth. Now you don't have to be mean when you tell somebody the truth, but you ought to be able to tell them that, your book could use a little rewrite, and maybe think a little bit more about how engaging it is and what your characters really want and stuff like that. So
Oh yeah,
ask
that's
for
right indeed.
ask for that feedback and then take it when you get it.
There you go. That's right. Take that feedback when you get it, y'all. That's right indeed. Feed your backs, y'all. That's right. Feed your. Oh man. So my goodness, my goodness. So a man decided to jump into the world of sci-fi indeed, man. So what sparked the love for sci-fi? I guess pun intended.
Yeah, yeah. As a kid, I grew up on sci-fi series, Star Trek and Stargate and of course Star Wars and all the stars, and then also the whole space program. And I read all the classics of science fiction, the Asimov, the Heinleins, the stuff like that, and it's always been bubbling around in my imagination what could be. So when it came time to write the book, I knew it was going to have to be sci-fi because that's my first love. Um, and so I've had a few false starts in writing books. I've written a couple sets of chapters, and they just never went anywhere. Maybe the ideas weren't fully baked, and you had a guest, Tracy Hazard, on, and she was talking about ideas are kind of like the discard pile when you're playing cards. That, yeah, you're throwing them into the discard pile, but those cards are coming back into the game. It may just be a year or two, or maybe even more, but sometimes that idea just needs to germinate a little more. And so I'd kind of had an idea for this book, and then I've got two daughters, and they were both at the time playing Pokemon Go. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but to play the game, you download the app on your phone and you wander around and you're looking through your phone's camera at the real world. And suddenly one of these little Pokemon guys is going to jump up and appear, and you're supposed to try to catch it. And I thought, that's a really cool idea. You can have something completely virtual superimposed over a real background. And I thought, what if we did a theme park like that? What if we could have something Disney sized, but where people were running around interacting with virtual things, engaged in virtual combat? Because I love VR. I love VR gaming, but the problem people have is that, and the problem I have is that once you put on that VR headset, you no longer see the real world. You have no idea where your coffee table is. You have no idea where your TV is. And so you're just flailing your arms and legs, and boom, there goes the TV off the stand, and wow, you just stepped on the cat. And so it can be a harsh environment if you go pure virtual. But I thought, what a cool idea if we could blend the virtual and the real, so that you see the wall, you're not going to run into the wall, you're not going to step on the cat, but at the same time you see the virtual things that have been created and imagined, and you can interact with them. So that became the kind of the backdrop for the book Spark.
Ooh, fabulous idea indeed. Yeah, and that's actually the beauty of Pokemon Go, because it's like it forces you to actually go outside as opposed to just really being on a classic Game Boy or handheld device. And it's like, oh yeah, you're actually going
Yeah,
outside looking for Pokemon.
no kidding. And I think I don't think it's as big now, but when I started playing it along with my kids, we would be walking through the park looking for these little critters, and their kid coming the other way, and he'd be like, did you see a Squirtle around here, or did you see a Pikachu or a Growlithe or something? So not only is everybody outside, now they're also interacting with other people. So I thought it had a kind of a double benefit.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about indeed. And the beautiful thing about this whole thing is not only your love for all the stars and all of its wonderful, beautiful variants, is your love for gaming. So I'm pretty sure your love for RPGs plays a part in this as well.
Oh yeah. I played all the arcade games, and I still love those and the side scrollers and whatnot. But I really got bit by the gaming bug with the whole Skyrim franchise, the Dragon's Age franchise, Mass Effect, and huge open worlds in those games where you're not just following a linear storyline, where you can make decisions, go different places, and do different things, and build your character. So yeah, I love my gaming too.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about indeed. That's what I'm talking about indeed. And we can't forget about your time in NASA, man. So how was it like working for NASA, bro? You're like a rarity on this show. I don't think I've actually had anybody who's actually worked for NASA that actually appear on the show. I don't think.
It was pretty cool. I mean, it is a lot of fun to see stuff that you actually worked on. You go out to the Cape and watch a launch, and the whole glory and spectacle of one of these vehicles taking off and launching out into space. I mean, you are close enough to the launch that you feel the vibrations in your body. It's like, if you're watching a marching band or something and they're going by at a parade and that big bass drum comes boom, 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 you can feel that in your rib cage and your heart pounding along with it. It's the same thing, only it's a full body experience when you're at one of these vehicle launches, because it's just so loud and so powerful. Uh, I loved it, loved every minute of it.
Nice. That's what I'm talking about indeed. And my goodness, yeah, you're right. I really could be a full body experience because of all that pressure and power needed to launch.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're looking when it's just sitting there on the launch pad, and this is back in the days of the space shuttle. Um, you're looking at something that weighs 3 or 4 million pounds, and you realize that less than 1 million pounds, in the couple 100,000 pounds, is all that's going to make it to orbit. Everything else is either going to burn up in terms of fuel, or the external fuel tank, or the solid rocket boosters. We would retrieve those and reuse those, but that's a whole lot of power to get a relatively small amount up into orbit.
Oh man. Yes indeed, yes indeed. That's right, the orbit swag, baby. That's right indeed, that orbit swag indeed.
Yep.
That's right indeed.
Yeah, and now I'm just jazzed that we've got commercial companies, SpaceX, Blue Origin. I love that we're doing that, Virgin Galactic even, that we're doing this as a business, not just as a government contract, but as an actual business, uh, because we've got kids that grew up with the same kind of dreams I did. Now they ended up making a whole lot more money than I did, but they're plowing it back into the idea of getting us back into space and getting us back to the moon and to Mars and beyond. I absolutely love that.
Oh heck yeah! It's like yeah, we can finally say men can go back to Mars, and we can go back to Venus and be like, hey, I guess the book was told the truth this whole time, baby. Let me stop.
Yeah. And
But
and maybe when we get back there, I don't know, I'm probably dreaming now, but maybe when we get back there, we'll finally silence some of these people that think we never went, and that I don't know if we're ever going to shut the flat earthers down, but Hey, let them have their thoughts, and the rest of us can just work around them.
Pun intended, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's funny you mentioned that because it reminded me of this crazy joke I saw online. It was a meme where it's like, what happens when you're in a group of flat earthers out of nowhere? They put a bag over your head and they say, hey, push up to the edge. And you're like, wait a second. They know something. They were really run the whole time. Oh, man, but yeah, it ain't about the flat earthers. Yeah, man, that's a whole other podcast episode. But yeah,
Yeah.
yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. But my goodness. Since you've been on this wonderful podcast tour, spreading the good word of Spark and all the future books to come, is there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often?
Yeah. And maybe it's a lesson learned from life thing. Maybe it's what motivates you? What's one of your driving forces or values, I guess? And I mean, I trust me, I love it when people help me push my book and help me get the book out there, the name out there. I love that. But I also love some of the deeper conversations that happen as well, and that are more about what do you really like as a human being, and what drives you, what gets you up in the morning, what do you think you need to accomplish in life. So I'd like to talk about that stuff some too.
Woohoo! Sounds good indeed. Sounds good indeed. So my goodness, so since life lessons, my goodness, so you made that transition from the Air Force life into NASA. How many years again did you spend time in the Air Force?
I was active duty for 13 and then reservist for another 25. Yeah, so a lot of time.
Oh wow, that's 33 years. My goodness, that's a
Yeah.
whole human. That's a millennial.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah.
It's like, nope, I wasn't there for Gen Z time. I was there for a whole millennial time. One of those older millennials in their 30s.
Yeah. I like that. I'm gonna steal that.
There you go. It'll throw people all the way off. Like, wait a second, what? It's like, you know what? He's got a point.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So, any advice for any fellow servicemen and women who may be looking to make that transition to civilian life? Because I'm pretty sure there may have been some little potholes and speed bumps along the way at that transition.
Yeah, and I love that question. Thank you for asking that. There are a couple of things. Number one is don't be afraid. When you're in the military, you tend to view the civilian world as kind of this big scary thing where everybody's super good at what they do, and you'll never figure it out. And I'm here to tell you that's just wrong. That I think the things you learn, the things you're trained to do in military life make you very, very competitive in the civilian world. And the leadership, the techniques, just the basic things about getting along with other human beings make you very competitive in the workforce, and they're very helpful for you. So don't be afraid. Don't worry about it. Go ahead and take the leap.
Woohoo! Take the leap indeed. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. I know Airborne is like, hey, we've been doing that for like ever.
Yeah.
Like that's all we have to do. Okay, all right. Oh man, oh man. So my goodness, fun question looking to drop on folks. So if your wonderful book Spark was a food, what would it be and why?
It would be It's not steak. It's not that heavy. It's more like curried chicken. It's got some good spice, some good kick to it, incredible flavor and aroma, and you'll love it. And you won't be able to wait for your next serving.
That's the first. That's what I'm talking about. Curry chicken, baby. Yeah, that spice, that kick. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right,
Now,
indeed.
there actually is a soft drink named after my book.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It is down in the Midwest, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's certainly down in the South, but Mountain Dew came out with a new flavor called Spark. Now, it may have nothing to do with my book, but that's not how I'm taking it. I figured since my book came out first and their soft drink flavor came out afterwards, that they must have used that flavor or that book as inspiration for the flavor.
There we go. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. And besides, it came out in 2021, so it came out when the millennium was at drinking age. So yeah, it had to come out with the drink as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
double the spark.
do the Spark.
That's right. Do the spark, mate. That's right, indeed. That's a new dance that's gonna come out. God knows when. That's right. Do the spark. That's right. Do the spark, and then the thistle. Let me.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Or come on down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but you're still in 2022, what advice would you give to yourself?
It would be, don't be afraid. Don't fear the changes that life is going to bring. All life is change. So get out there, embrace the change or shape the change to make it what you want it to be. Because I think we have an incredible ability to do that, to create and guide our own destiny and reality. So don't be afraid to do that.
Woohoo! That's right, indeed. Create that reality, y'all. That's right. That's right, indeed. It doesn't have to all be virtual either. That's right.
That's
Create
right.
it, y'all.
That's right. And don't create a flat Earth. Make a nice round one, with gravity. Yeah. So you can't get pushed to the edge.
Well, we gotta have you back when your next book comes out because this is freaking amazing.
All right. Yeah.
That's right, indeed. So, for those who don't need to be pushed to the edge of the wonderful flat Earth that someone might try to create, if those need to hop on your social medias and keep up with all the stuff that you're doing, what's the best way for folks to do so?
Everything is linked through my website, which is thepatdaily.com. THEPATDAILY.com. That'll get you to the blog, to the Facebook, to the Insta, to the Twitter, the whole social ecosphere.
That's right, and it's a great ecosphere indeed. It's a brand new sexy site, y'all. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. My man went from Crocs to stilettos with this one, y'all. I'm telling you. So check it out, like a library book, indeed. That's right, indeed. And check out all the stuff that he's doing. He's got a blog. It stays active. That's right, it stays active. It gets its feeding, y'all. That's right, indeed. And folks love active stuff, indeed. Well, except for active volcanoes. That's a whole other situation.
Yeah. Stay away from those.
But active blogs, yeah, we love those. That's a stark contrast. Well, any parting words before we close up shop?
No, just a thank you. Thank you for having me on your show. Enjoyed it and look forward to doing it again sometime.
How's it going, my friend? I'm so glad you made it to the end. That shows that you are an uncommon finisher, and I am so grateful for you sharing your ears, your attention, and your time to this wonderful podcast to do something that'll take yourself to the next level. And for everybody else involved in this wonderful program, share it with at least 3 people in your network so that way more folks can not only catch the fire that is on this podcast, but can also be inspired to be their best.